So while I was reviewing your homework, I noticed you guys all missed the same kind of problem if you missed any of them. And they were these trig identities that you were trying to reduce. So I thought that maybe I should go over one of them and make sure you understand. If you didn't get a chance to watch the videos, you need to make sure you do that. Make sure you're doing the book homework and comparing the answers. Come see me or see a tutor, because this is going to be a very important part of the rest of the trig course. So this one, it asks you to reduce it, and you've got several parts here, but what you're looking for are the ones that you can turn into something else. So like sine is as small as it's going to get, so you don't need to worry about that one. Cosecant and cotangent both have pieces that you can break them down into. And so when we look at cosecant and we start trying to break those things down, cosecant is the same thing as 1 over sine. So that's this one that we've got over here. We already have the sine over here. Now this is where some of you had a little trouble. You have a subtraction problem. So I'm going to go over here and let's look at just a subtraction problem. So basically we've got a subtraction problem with fractions. And in this subtraction problem, you've got your 1 over sine minus your sine, and your sine is actually over 1. And when you deal with fractions, what you have to do is find a common denominator. Since one denominator is sine and one denominator is 1, the common one would be sine. So what I did here is I took my fraction and I put my denominator that I'm looking at underneath my fraction bar, which was sine. And I said, okay, the old denominator of sine goes into itself one time, and 1 times the 1 that's on the top gives me a 1. Then over here, the 1 goes into sine, sine times, and the sine times the sine that was already there is sine squared. So that's where that came from. This is just like if you were to do, let me put a regular old fraction on there. What if I had 1/4 minus 1/8? You would have found a common denominator, which is 8. And you would have went old one into new one, because 1 times 1 is 1. 4 goes into 8 2 times. 2 times 1 is 2. And then you would have done the subtraction. That's exactly what we were doing here. So it's a little harder to do when you're dealing with trig functions. So that's what this one breaks down into. So if we go back to our problem now, so let me find that one now, where we were. So now we know that on ours, on the top, we broke it down and we had 1 over sine minus sine. And then we got a common denominator and we ended up with 1 minus sine squared over sine. Well, with our trig identities, we can know that 1 minus sine squared is actually equal to cosine squared. So what we have now, if I bring that sine squared over to the other side, it's equal to what I have on the top of my fraction. 1 minus sine squared is equal to cosine squared. So in our original problem now, we now have on the top cosine squared, and we still have on the bottom sine. And we can actually now take what we have on the bottom of our original problem. Now remember, let's go back to the original problem so you can see. This is the top. That's what we've been working with. The bottom only had this on the bottom. So let's go back now and see what we've got. So we've simplified the top. This is the bottom. And now we need to work on simplifying the bottom. So cotangent is equal to the reciprocal of tangent. And tangent is sine over cosine, which would make cotangent cosine over sine. So now we have the top. This big fraction bar is the same as division. So we really have a division problem now. So we have cosine squared over sine squared divided by cotangent. And as we're looking at that one, cotangent we just said was cosine over sine. When we divide with fractions, we turn the problem into a multiplication problem and flip the divisor, or the one on the right. So this was the top, this was the bottom. We're going to flip the bottom, so now it becomes sine over cosine. So that's what we have here, sine over cosine. It's now multiplication. And in fractions with multiplication, you can cross cancel. So sine went into itself one time. There's one cosine down here and two up here. So if I cross one out, I'm left with one cosine. So the answer to that whole problem ended up being cosine. And that's what we're going for. We're trying to get it down to the smallest piece that we can get it to. This is going to take a little bit of practice. These things are probably one of the harder concepts if you have trouble with algebra. So you may have to go back and review some of your algebra skills. But remember, you've got resources. You've got me you can come see. You can call me. We can hop in the virtual classroom. You can go to the virtual tutor, which is on your course information page in Moodle. It's a real person there that can help you when you're stuck on these. Homework is when you should be getting help. You know, don't think of these homework problems as quizzes. You can print that out, take it to the academic support, you know, call up the tutor on the virtual tutor, come by and see me and I'll help you with it. This is when you're trying to learn. You know, don't try to learn when you're doing the quiz. Let's try to learn while we're doing the homework. So make sure that you come see me if you need my help.